In my past videos, I reworked 8 of Splatoon 3's maps, ranging from Scorch Gorge all the way until Mahi Mahi Resort. However, today, I want to go ahead and see what reworks we can make to Inkblot Academy, Surgeon Shipyard, Mako Mart, and Wahoo World. So, without further ado, let's get into it. Alright, now something I have to admit now is that my rules from the last video still apply. My one rule with reworking these maps is that I cannot change the map layout, meaning that the overall map layout, like the general shape of it, I can't change. I can add and subtract things, but I cannot change the overall shape of a map as much as I really want. But starting off with the Inkblot though, not many changes I want to make, honestly. First of which, I want to add a balloon right here. I talked about this a lot in my last video, but the little like dummy balloons we have around the map that kind of act as like little barriers, I want one right here so that it acts as like a cover for both attacking this position and defending it as well. So another one in mid, right on this corner right here. I feel like putting one right here would be pretty nice, and it would allow some cover when you climb up from this position, and would just help in general with fighting this area since you are pretty much out in the open. Now the next change I want to make is that I want to add a ramp right here. Now the reason I want to add a ramp right here is because in a lot of ranked situations is that a lot of times people will end up camp this position right here and then gun down whoever's coming down. You know, like this angle is so advantageous for the attackers that it makes spawn camping very, very easy. So I feel like if anything, making this a ramp that either slopes in this direction or down in this direction would honestly kind of help with getting rid of that issue. And honestly, I think it would help though, and it would have helped like smoothing out the map just a little bit. Now aside from this, another change I want to make is that I want to add a grate right here. Inkblot, not really known for having too many grates. In fact, there's only like one on this map, and that's over in that position over there. But I want to add another one right here because I feel like defending from this position is not too bad, but it would be easier to defend like this lower part, considering look where the reticle goes. It would be easier to defend this lower part if there was a grate like right here that you could walk on and, you know, kind of just reverse on. But it's not all I want to add to this position, as I also want to add a little ink rail that goes up from here and leads up to that grate. Now the reason I want to add this little feature is because one, ink rails already exist on I think all or most of the ranked maps for Inkblot, so having it in like the general map layout for turf war and other stuff like that would honestly be pretty nice. Of course, the downside though, the risk reward with this is that you are very much out in the open, and that this ink rail would lead directly to that grate section, and there would be no other way to get onto that section other than to go out of the ink from the ink rail and walk on the grates, leaving you at a very vulnerable position. So it's a very much risk reward type thing, but again, a lot of the changes that I make are very much risk reward, so I feel like it kind of fits that a little bit. But moving on, the next change I want to make is I actually want to extend this platform out a little bit. You can see on the map there, this is actually like pretty much squared off essentially. Reason being is because I feel like this area, it's too small for the amount of fights that can take place in this little section. I feel like this section is just way too small for what it actually does, and I feel like that little ink rail over there that would essentially be there acts as a way for like, okay, you need to be over here or else you lose out on a very key position for backliners over there. I feel like this position, you know, just kind of fleshing it out a little bit more would honestly help. Not only that though, but also extending this platform so that it is the furthest one out might also help as well. It'll help from peaking this position over here, and I feel like it would just help smooth out the map just a little bit more, to make the overall shape just a little more enjoyable. But that was pretty much all I have for Inkblot. Not too many changes, admittedly. Some of these are like kind of major if you kind of think about it, but at the same time, a majority of these changes are very minor. Let's go ahead and move on to the next map, which is going to be Surgeon Shipyard. Now, admittedly, again, not many changes I can make to this map. The first major change, really, or kind of minor one, I would say, is I want to move this sponge right here to the corner. I want this sponge to be shoved into the corner so that it makes accessing this little area just a bit easier, you know, a bit easier to defend, I would say. Now, of course, I mean, the immediate danger with removing the sponge is like, okay, look, you're removing a key piece of cover to this already very open section of the map. What gives? Okay. Well, what I want to add here is one of those balloons. I talked about this last time for Inkblot, but I feel like the balloons are a nice piece of cover that get added into the map and just kind of help it out a little bit more. So I feel like adding one of those balloons right where the sponge is, maybe one of the bigger, thicker ones would be better for this position, but I feel like just having a balloon there instead of the sponge would honestly be kind of nice. I don't know, maybe that's just me though. Next up though, the next change I want to add is I want to add a ramp right here. Now I know, Kai, you're adding a ramp that leads into spawn. But listen, there's a reason. Okay, right now for this map, there's really only like maybe one way into spawn on a traditional map. Two, you know, if you're on rank, because you can enter in through the bridge section. I want there to be another route because I want to give this section over here some use. This entire left section, since the spawn is so far out on the right, this left section is pretty much an afterthought, you know, like it doesn't get contested much. There's no need to contest it. This is simply just a liminal area that acts as a way for you to get from point A to point B faster, you know, like apart from that, it serves no purpose. So to give it a better purpose, I want to add a ramp that goes from this position to the next one. It's just down a level. That's all I want to do. I feel like what this would do is add a bit more purpose to the map and would actually give people a reason to come over here and defend this side of the map. You know, it would help out quite a lot in my opinion. But the final change I want to make is I want to add an ink rail that goes from right here up and around this wall. Reason being is because, well, yes, I know the jump from here to that position is already pretty damn easy. You know, you can kind of just strafe over there with a nicely timed jump. I wanted an ink rail so that there's some level of like, what's it, height? Is that the word? Yeah, height to this map. You know, this map already plays around with height quite a fair bit. You know, you have these little high grounds and the low ground, and pretty much the middle section there is a height, you know, based area. Why not add an ink rail that adds a bit more fun and height to it by having it go around? You know, like have it go around. And it makes it less predictable too from this alternate route, because now you have two ways to get in there. I mean, both eventually end up in the same location, but at least from this position, you either have the choice of going low and swimming through the ink, or taking a bigger risk and a better reward by taking the ink rail and swimming all the way around. I feel like this change would honestly not be too bad for the map and would help it be just a bit more fun in my opinion. But that is all I have for Sturgeon, so let's move on to our next map. Mako Mart. Yep, I gotta redesign this map, and admittedly, there's like, I think 3 changes in total for this map. There's not a lot. Mainly because I feel like this map's already pretty nicely designed. But the first change I want to make though is I want to extend this spawn area, whatever you want to call it. I want to extend it to the left a little bit because I feel like just this little starting area is too small. Like, given maybe it's a little bit big, but I feel like this section is just too small for a starting area, and it should be extended out just a little bit more to meet this ramp. You know, like extend this out just a little bit. But still, you know, talking about spawn here, I want to go ahead and make this wall inkable. Now, I want to say in the ranked modes that this wall is inkable, but I'll be honest, I don't think it is. I'm not entirely sure on that. I think this wall is only like really able to get on top of it via ink rail, which is kind of sucks to be honest. So I feel like making this wall inkable would honestly be nice, as it adds a level of height to the map and gives you a high ground over mid by just a little bit. But the final change I want to make, and yes, final, because I said there's only 3 changes for this map, is I want to add another one of these blocks on the opposite end over here, and then put grates on the edge of them so that you can jump from grate to grate and have an alternate route to get over there. Now, yes, I know this pathway exists, and you can also take mid to get over there a bit faster. But listen, wouldn't it be fun if we had alternate routes? Wouldn't it just be fun? So I feel like putting another one of these blocks over there and adding grates to the ends of them wouldn't be a too bad change, you know, as it means that while you're fighting in mid, you would have to watch this position and the lower hallway, or whatever you want to call the corridor, in order to make sure nobody's flanking. But since that was my final change for Mako Mart though, let's go ahead and move on to the final map. Wahoo World! That's right, I gotta redesign probably the worst map in the game. And anyways, my first rework or whatever for this map is I want to add an incline, or actually, is it incline? I'm not actually sure the correct word on that. Incline is the word I'm thinking of, but basically the grind rails that allow you to go from position to position. But basically, I want the grind rails from like a few shifting stations and from story mode to be added in right here that lead all the way around and over that red wall over there. The reason I want this here is because I want another way to get into mid faster. I feel like this map is very slow and like stalemate-ish, you know, it's very stalemate to the point where it ends up really not being too fun to play on. So I feel like adding a grind rail, you know, from that position over there that leads all the way over to that little wall over there and basically into this position would honestly be a nice change that would help speed up the pace of matches that occur on this map. You know, this map feels pretty slow at times, so why not speed it up? And besides that as well, it also plays into like the whole, you know, amusement park type theme of the map, you know, because it's basically like what I would say like a little mini roller coaster line. So if anything, I feel like adding a grind rail that leads from that position all the way over here would be a nice change. Now the next change I want to make is I want to extend this platform out by just a little bit. There's really no reason to it, to be honest. I just want more inkable space at this position, you know, because this feels like it got cut off just a little bit too short. So if I extended it out just by a little bit, wouldn't be too bad, admittedly. But I mean, aside from that though, let's move on to our next change. Now by next change, I meant final change, because to be honest, there's not really much else I want to do for this map. Basically, my final change to this map is I want to add another one of these platforms, two of them precisely, on either ends of this position where I'm standing right now, basically in total making 4 of those platforms exist on the map. Now, of course, the downside to this is that it means that you get locked out of certain areas at specific times, especially when these platforms end up, you know, kind of locking in and intersecting with the timer and stuff like that. It kind of messes things up and locks you in a certain area. To counteract that, I want to go ahead and transform them into like the bridge version that's seen in ranked, because in ranked, these things aren't actually just straight up walls. They're actually kind of arches, you know, they're basically like little bridges essentially. I want to basically make that change to all 4 platforms. That way it makes traversing around the entire, like, you know, outside of mid, or I guess like the lower parts of mid, just a bit more interesting, you know, a bit more open. It doesn't like lock you out as it does in turf war and stuff like that. So I feel like that change would be kind of nice, and it would mean that getting across mid on these using these platforms would honestly be more reliable, you know, because you know, in Walker World, you either have to wait for the long ass platform that takes forever just to get here, or you walk along those, you know, like either way, you'd have to wait for one of these platforms to pop out so you can traverse mid through this one position. And honestly, it just kind of sucks, you know. So to keep in line with kind of speeding up the pace of Wahoo World, I want to go ahead and add 2 of those platforms to make the map just a bit more faster. But I mean, that is basically all I had to talk about for this video. It's kind of short. I know there weren't many changes made to these maps, but to be honest, the reason for that is because a lot of these maps don't really have changes that need to be fixed. You know, like a lot of these changes that I'm making are ones that would make the maps more fun. And while yes, I know I can make a few that are like, oh, you know, make the map better for competitive and stuff like that, that would require me to change the actual layout of the map, which is something I'm not allowed to do because of my rules that I put in place for myself. So to kind of keep in line with the rules and, you know, to kind of fix what I can or rework what I can, I can't really make too many changes, to be honest, which kind of sucks because a lot of these maps need a lot of changes. But aside from that though, hope you guys enjoyed the video. Feel free to like, subscribe, comment, to the fun generic YouTuber stuff, and please let me know if you guys agree or disagree with any of my suggestions. And by all means, please let your own suggestions of what these maps should fix in the comments below. I've actually enjoyed reading a few of the comments I've been getting on these videos that are talking about like the changes you guys would make. So by all means, please let me know the changes you guys would make. But for now, hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye.